Elsebet Pedersen, you're Assistant Professor at the Technical University of Denmark, and you're here at InterConstruct talking about finding cultural differences in your own backyard. What do you mean by this?
Well, in these years where there's a great need for manpower all over, and that we see that people are traveling a long way to get work, there is a lot of discussion on these foreign workers or the migrant workers coming in. But we see, and related to this, the health and safety issues are being discussed as not being taken in, or there's a lot of accidents and a lot of things going on in that respect, which is being addressed, which I think is very important. But looking at it, if you want to have to change the health and safety on construction industry or on site specifically, you also have to look at the basic culture there to see is there any differences. And that is why I call it in your own backyard, because my view is, our view is that there is differences which has an impact on how health and safety is carried out and how health and safety is being adapted or integrated in the everyday life. I mean, it's so obvious if you speak with another language like I am doing right now, that there can be problems. You cannot express exactly what you would like to say. And what we heard this morning and what we are going to hear a lot about is that they have written sheets in a Polish or other language and addressing health and safety or issues relevant for the site with the foreign workers. But it doesn't always work, because the construction industry is a no-nonsense industry, and there's a lot of different people working here. There's professionals, engineers, which I teach every day, and whatever you talk with them, they sit down at the computer and write 2 or 3 pages and send it out to these people. But that's not how construction workers or operators work. I mean, they want it to the face. They want to talk about it, or they want it in straightforward, or maybe in pictures or whatever. It has to be. It's a total different language. Sometimes they learn by just watching someone doing the things, and that's the best way to get your message across, and you have to be very much aware of that. So that's another side of the communication, and you have to use a wide range of methods, I think.
One of the research projects you'll be talking about in your presentation looked at construction in Denmark. What was that project all about, and what did it find?
Well, it was a very big project actually, and it finished 2 years ago, and it was funded by the EU funding. And it was the project was started by the employers and the union and the state all together to sort of look at a new paradigm for changing the industry. The construction industry was they wanted it more efficient. They wanted also to have the image that this was an industry that young people shouldn't go into change. So there was a lot of interest in getting across that this was a very important and very interesting industry on that level. At the same time, there was a lot of new management approaches coming across, like partnering, which is known in other countries. We didn't have much to do with that. There was lean construction and other concepts of that they wanted to integrate it in the whole industry. So this was taken on, and more than 23 firms was involved, more than 650 people was involved, and it was carried out over a period of 3 years. Also addressing the difference between the designer and the site. Many of the experiences that they make at site was never carried back to, or carried to the designer, so that they could change the concept whenever they were going to make a new project and things like that. That was one of the issues. Another one was that in Denmark, all the trades are highly split up. when they are on site, the builders are sitting in one cabin, the bricklayers in one cabin, and the carpenters in another, and they don't interact. So that was another issue that the whole project was going to address, and that was set up by having a mutual canteen, and that no one of the different trades were going to have their own cabin and so forth. For the longest time, they were sitting on each table, but I mean they were in the same room, which was very interesting. They also offered a meeting. Everybody was supposed to be attending a meeting once a week where the whole project was discussed, what was going to happen the next week, and issues of health and safety could be brought up, and it could be converted into what they called school at site, where they had got a specific instruction in some health and safety device or something like that. So this was the idea behind the project, and in that period of time, new concepts of learning was designed and discussed. So.
And how is the research results being used now by the construction companies in Denmark?
Well, what you're sort of implying to is that many research project is being made, and there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement afterwards that this and that has been succeeded. But I can say that in this case, because so many was involved, there is still a lot of things going on, and a lot of the things that addressed in this project is things that they have to address, of course. What came out of it as an interesting, in terms of the project side part, was that there was a lot of job satisfaction coming out. People really liked being on these sites. And one young engineer, he was put on their site and wasn't too keen on it in the beginning. But he said, I'm not into these hairy things. But it turned out that when he was sitting with his foreman in this rolling planning that they had each week, he realized that these were the people that he had to address when they were short of time in the project, on the running of the project. And it turned out that he could save 6 weeks, and he was so thrilled. So he threw a grill party afterwards for the whole site. So and he was very excited about it. So he carries things on. I mean, it was a new kind of communication, a new meeting, and the meeting was right there where you needed it. There is another project which showed that each trade sort of would never really talk about health and safety within them, but they would talk about the neighbor trade and say how dumb they're doing things or how stupid they were acting and things like that. But what comes out of a project like this is that you actually know the bricklayer as being Søren and having a son of the same age as your son or whatever, and that you would go and say, well, I'm putting up scaffolding next week. Do you need to have some things brought up or something like that? That is really a change, I think.
Thank you for your time, Elsebet.
You're welcome.